All right. So I'm going to try to video how I fit bars and tubes to the cage. So the first bar I'm going to do is I need to go from this firewall here. You can see it's 2 plates, one to the front, the body, and then this one connects to the main cage here. And so I'm going to be building what we call intrusion bars in like Formula Drift, and you know, I'm sure a lot of other racing organizations, when we build cages, there's like an open area between like the firewall and the driver door bars here that they deem dangerous as far as like side intrusion. So when you're drifting, if somebody like really fucking T-bones you or something, this area of sheet metal can just crumple, and it can get your feet in a way that's not good. So the typical design would be straight here, straight from this cage to the firewall, and then one from the bottom down here in like a diagonal, and that pretty much creates a wall of tubing to keep things from entering through the side here. I'm going to be doing a bar straight to the main hoop here, or to the A pillar, and then we're going to be doing this lower one. So yeah, for this piece, I'm going to start off just cheating. I've got like a section of tubing, 1 3/4 DOM. I'm using 120 just because it's what I have. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit safer. I want a little thicker tubing. Super not necessary, but it is what it is. So I personally don't have a 100% tried and true method for fitting tube. You know, I've done it with the tape measure. I've done it like this, where I'm basically just gonna put that up there, center it up. Here's the edge of the back of my bar here, and I'm just gonna draw a little Sharpie mark, right? And I know this is gonna be flat on the firewall. Here's my A pillar, and then what I typically will do is just add maybe, what's that, like a 1/2 inch? Yep, 1/2 inch on the dot, 1/2 inch for my cope. So with this one, it's a perfect straight cope. You know, half moon on top, half moon on bottom here. Boom. Pretty straightforward. I'm not gonna cut this piece up because this is a handy size just for doing this exact thing. So we're gonna cut some out of these. These were previously my diagonal door bars that I don't like. Way too simple. They just went from here to here. And I'm going to be doing some nice bent, more like artistic looking designs. So we're going to cut it out of this. This is that same 1 3/4. We got my crusty old saw out. And I'm going to start by, I'm going to just cut the ends off square, because they're not a perfect like flat surface. So we're gonna just cut this off. All right. Now we can measure 14 5/8. 14 5/8. That up in there. I always bring my saw blade down just to touch the Sharpie mark. You can see that. And then I'll tighten this up. Check again. Sweet. All right, so we got our first piece cut. Went ahead and cut a second one off camera. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna do the A-pillar cope. For this, I'm just gonna lay these two pieces together, and we're gonna go 1/2 inch. Yeah. So for each piece, I don't have like a hole saw notcher or anything. I'm just gonna set this tubing up here, draw my top line, and then work straight down and draw my bottom line. I'm gonna do that with both just because I'm here. So we go top, bottom, and then transfer these up to the top of the tubing. Cool. All right. So now I've got this little mark on the top of both pieces. I can throw a tape measure up here, go about 1/2 inch back, mark it like that, 1/2 inch back, mark it. I'm gonna roll it over to the other side, go my 1/2 inch back, mark, roll it over, 1/2 inch back, mark that. Now normally I would just kind of like wing it and, you know, Sharpie in where I'm going to cut it. I'm going to be cutting all these with the angle grinder, and so I would just like rough in the cope on the top, rough in the same cope on the bottom. Realistically, I should invest in like a tubing notcher. One thing I've been thinking about recently is my dad has this cool tubing notcher that it's bolted to the wall, and you slide the pipe in like this, and it literally is just a punch, and it just punches out that perfect shape right there. You flip it over, punch it, and then you can just clean it up with a flap disc. But I don't know if he uses it anymore. I might have to go steal it one of these days. And so, but for right now, I'm just gonna go off of what I can feel, you know, like how I usually do this. Make my marker like that. And I'm gonna throw this in the vise. So I got this tube in the vise. This might not be super important, but I know it helps me. I will center up the cope, and then I can see straight through on the other side my other mark for the other cope. And so when I'm cutting this, I can, like, I don't know, be as square as possible. And so with the angle grinder, I'll just start right here. Boom, just like that. Loosen it. Flip this over. And then that's where this comes in handy, because even if your first cope is crooked, you can kind of correct a little bit. And so I'm noticing that first one was just a little bit crooked. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of disregard the center line mark here. And again, I'm just going to try to eyeball it as close as possible. And there we go. You can see it's, you know, it's not a perfect system. That one's definitely leaned in a little bit more. And so what I would do from here is change my disc over. Put a 40 grit flap wheel disc on. Make sure that's tight. And then I open up these inside corners here. hit this, turn it around 180. Do the same thing. Now I've got my inch and three, saw that coming, inch and 3/4 tube, and from here, you can see the cope, you know, it's not terrible. I could definitely open up that tip a little bit more on that side. This one looks okay. So I'm gonna open this up a little bit. And it also looks like I'm not perfectly 90 on this thing. I think I'm going to take this side a little bit deeper. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper on this side. And then I got to bevel this out right here. Alright, boom, just like that. You can kind of see 360 view of it. And I can tell it's still not a perfect, like a perfect true 90-degree cope. Like it sits there, but visually, like you can tell it's tipped up a little bit. That I'm not going to worry about on this tube specifically, just because it is under the dash. And I can, you know, as kind of tacky as it is to do, I can fill an, you know, a 1/16 to an 1/8 of a weld. That's not a problem. I'm not gonna split hairs over that. That's a pretty good looking cope. And so let's run it back over here. Just like that. She pops right into place. Trying to center up these two lower bolts here, and then line it up through here, straight across to my my front plate. So that's all nice, one strong piece. That way, if I ever get in a front end accident, all that energy is transferring directly into the rest of the structure here. So yeah, I'm gonna go in here. Let's see, get my flashlight out. You can see these copes looking mighty nice, even on the back side. I'm gonna go in, center up these two bolts here, because I want to be able to get them out once I put the secondary tube in. And then I'm gonna put a level up in here. And so I'm going to check the level of the cage, level of the front here, and I'll level this bar out. And I'm probably, because this is a little bit of a squeeze fit, I'm probably going to take just like a 1/16 off of the inside here. It looks like it is on just a slight angle anyway. I've got about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of a gap on this side. Because I want this thing to not be like wedge fit together. I want it to have just a little bit of slack. That way when I bolt it together, when I unbolt it to pull the cage out for final weld and paint, that it's not spring loaded. I don't want this thing to like come unbound when I unbolt the whole thing. And so I'm going to take just a little bit off on that far edge. Then I'll get it in here. We'll tack it into place. I'm also going to do that one off camera. Another cool part about these intrusion bars, for me specifically, is this guy right here. So because of the way I wanted to build this, I don't want a brake master cylinder or a booster or anything on that side of the firewall. And so what I'm gonna be using is these Wilwood inward swinging pedals. And so the master cylinders actually face towards the driver, and your reservoirs will be right here. And you hang this pedal set, you know, and that way all your lines on the inside, nothing is on the other side of that firewall. And so with this intrusion bar here, because the dash bar in this thing runs up above the cowling here and not like straight across like a lot of like cages would typically be in cars, I'm still gonna figure out what I want to do as far as a big brace off this way, because I don't like the idea of it just being mounted to this tube and having all that weight. I might do a little bolt through panel so it's anchored off here, and maybe have a tube run out and around, and so when I drop the cage in, it'll go to the firewall there, and then all of my pedals will just mount right off this box right here. And so that's going to make it so when I pull the firewall apart, pull the cage out, I'm going to re-tin this area. Probably going to do a nice bead rolled section here because it's all wrinkly and shit. I can just tin that. I don't have to worry about my pedals or holes for the master cylinder or anything like that. It's all on the inside. It's all going to be nice and clean, tucked up under the dash. Yeah, it's going to be cool. I got that side fitted, and I've got it like partially welded in. I leveled it with the top line of the cage, and then same for this side. Got it fitted in there pretty good. I'm gonna start working on these diagonals, you know, from the floor up to the firewall here, and I'm gonna be doing all of that off camera. I'm gonna get going on that, and then when I get those done, I will touch back in.